Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public forum for the 19th of October 2021. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, being the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay respects to their spirits, ancestors, community members, and elders past, present, and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Although it's not possible for members of the public to join us in person, tonight's virtual public forum will be live streamed on our website, and I do extend a warm welcome to anyone who is watching online. Our public forum provides residents with an opportunity to present to council on topics of interest and allows for further discussion, which is not possible at a formal council meeting. We have two presenters scheduled for tonight's public forum, and I would also just note that we do have an apology for the public forum from Councillor Jacob Bedio. Our first presentation this evening, I'd like to invite Dr. Penny Hocking and Dr. Anne Enright, representing Westside Desexing, to present their item. Penny and Anne, you've got about 5 minutes to present, and then we'll have questions from councillors. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, absolutely.
I just got a PowerPoint presentation here. Can somebody bring that up? Or
very good question. Do you have the capacity to share your screen, or does someone in the comms team have the PowerPoint they can share?
no,
I'll let Peter know.
I don't have the PowerPoint on hand. Are you able to share your screen, Anne?
if I bring it up, can you just remind me how to do that?
There should be a share screen button in the bottom middle.
Is that your little wine glass thing?
It has an up arrow, it's a square.
Might be a green button with an upwards arrow if you're running off a PC.
No, I haven't got a green button. It doesn't matter. I can just talk if you like. That will.
Yeah, look, even if you want to talk, and then we can just circulate it to councillors for them to read afterwards. That's fine.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll just go through it quickly then. So, hello everybody, and good evening. My name is Anne Enright, and tonight I'm really pleased to introduce you to Westside Community Desexing. Penny and I are both vets, and in 2020 we decided we needed to help reduce the number of stray cats that are around and to decrease the level of unnecessary euthanasia that occurs in shelters and pounds. So some really quick background facts for some of you that may or may not be aware of it. Every year there's approximately 80,000 cats and kittens that are killed in shelters and pounds. These are animals that can be actually rehomed. It's not the feral ones. These are rehomable animals. Pound euthanasia rates vary, obviously, and the shelter that is the Pound for Moonee Valley Council has a euthanasia rate of 45%, and that's actually published in their annual report. Pound fees, which the council pay per head of animal entering a shelter, they vary as well, but they're very expensive and they very quickly add up, particularly in kitten season and over summer when there's just this glut of cats and kittens available. And of course, we all know how nuisance complaints increase when there are too many stray cats and kittens around. So our goals basically are we want to desex the West. We want to provide an accessible, affordable desexing, vaccination and microchipping service to councils and community groups. So that will enable them, by accessing our services, that they will be able to save enormous amounts of money and redirect their finances into more useful tasks. I thought quickly I'd just talk to you about the animal management team in case you don't know about them. It's a new team. They were put together this year, and as with any new team, they've inherited what has gone before. And unfortunately, this has been further compounded by the very familiar COVID restrictions we've had for the past 18 months. In 2020, which you'll see in the PowerPoint screen when you get hold of it, almost half the cats and kittens that were taken to the pound were killed. And if you just think about the cost, if you're paying $400 or $500 a head, it doesn't take very long for these costs to add up. The euthanasia rate for the Moonee Valley Council was 48%, so just under half of what was taken to the pound was killed. And then when you think about the actual cost of the pound fee per head, it's an enormous amount of money. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're paying. And when half of them that are being killed, essentially half of the council fees that were paid to the pound were paid just to kill cats. It's not all doom and gloom. No, I know I've made it sound a bit like that. It's not. There is some good news. The animal management team, they're keen to introduce change, and they want to introduce some improvements, and they're willing to use a model which we've trialled very successfully at Banyule Council, and has achieved some really great outcomes. They had a reduction of over 80% of impounded animals that came in over a 6-year period when they introduced a targeted desexing program. And at Westside Community Desexing, we're really keen to establish partnerships that will make change and that will create change. We have already a formalised MOU with the animal management team, and the animal management team are keen to desex up to 100 cats in the problem areas. And this is how you will get your biggest bang for your buck. You target your problem areas first, and they're keen to do that. And that will ultimately, I can guarantee, will ultimately in a few years save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in pound fees. So I had some pictures there which show dead cats. So thank you for letting me introduce you to Westside Community Desexing. And if you've got any questions, I'd really like to field them for you.
Thanks, Anne. And I think I did get a couple of notes from councillors that we do have the PowerPoint in our notes for this evening, the first 4 pages. So I know most councillors are probably looking at them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. It's very handy to supply that beforehand. So very grateful for that, for councillors be able to view those in advance. Councillors, any questions for Anne or Penny? Yeah, Councillor Isaac.
Thanks very much, Anne. It would certainly be good if we can achieve those sorts of reductions that other councils seem to have been able to. I was just wondering, I was trying to find, I saw something on Facebook recently about some legislation changes to vets and shelters, and I was going to ask you about that, but in trying to find that particular announcement, I also came across an announcement around pet desexing grants and animal welfare fund grants programs. Is that something that you're familiar with, and is that the sort of thing that we might be able to apply for a grant to do this sort of work? Would that be applicable?
Yeah, Penny can probably answer that more efficiently.
Yep, so the grant part of it, Rose, the state government has released $1.5 million over a 3-year period for desexing grants. So the first one was run in February. They've been announced. So councils and rescue groups can apply I think they'll come out every January or February. So there'll be $500,000 next year and the year after. And it sort of came out with not a lot of notice this year, so only the rescue groups and a couple of councillors that are really on board with this managed to get in time, but hopefully there'll be more awareness about it next year. So yeah, certainly we'd really encourage all our councils to apply for those desexing grants. And the first part of the question, I think probably related to up till now, animals that were presented to vets or rescue groups that were lost had to go to council. The vet wasn't allowed to scan the animal, ring up the owner and say, come and collect your dog or cat, even if they were a really good client of the vet. It always had to go to the council, which of course is inefficient and stressful for both the owner and the animal, because then they enter the pound system, the owner has to pay the fees, the animal gets stressed, might get sick, might even get lost in the system and get killed. So the work of the state government has now bringing in that vets are allowed to scan any animal that's brought into them and notify the owner that they've got their animal without it having to go through council.
Thanks, Penny.
Thanks, Councillor Isaac. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Anne and Penny. This might be a silly question, but I just wanted to ask, with the targeted desexing program, is that about making the desexing operation more available to people with pet cats so that we stop the problem, or is it about desexing the animals that are caught?
It's about targeted desexing is if you want your biggest bang for your buck, you pick your really big problem areas, like where the animal management officers go the most frequently and where you get the most animals from that go into the pound. And you go and you pick that area, and it might be a block of high-rise flats, it might be a block of 3 streets, it could be a suburb, and you focus 85% of whatever you're going to do on that area, and you just keep going back and getting all of those animals there, because they're the ones that, if they're contributing 50, 60, 70% of the animals that are going into the shelter, they're the ones you want to stop first. Keep a little bit for the people that, in other areas that need some sort of financial support, but you need to target the areas that are causing you the most grief, so to speak, from a financial perspective. You target them, you hit them, and you desex the cats, so you stop the kittens. Because on average, every female cat can produce 4 kittens, and this is just an average, and they can have 2 or 3 litters a season. If they start early, like we've got cats having kittens now, and so in 8 or 9 weeks, they're probably, if they're just out and they're not desexed, they'll get pregnant again, and then they can have another litter at the end of the season. So you'll get 2 litters out of a cat, maybe 3. And so there is immediately 4, 8 or 12 kittens that you can avoid if you desex one. And if you go to your problem areas, you'll get your biggest bang for buck, and you'll prevent hundreds and hundreds of kittens being born.
So are those cats that are having kittens, they're mostly pet cats, or are they like stray cats, or a combination of both?
Oh, there'll be a combination of both. Unfortunately, like the stray cats, it's called TNR in Australia, trap neuter release, and that's actually, at the moment, it's illegal. We're trying to have that changed, and there are a few pilot programs assessing the effectiveness of doing that. So at the moment, you would be focusing on owned cats or semi-owned cats that people have been feeding for years, and people next door moved out, left the cat, and the cat's now sleeping in their house and eating in there, but it's not their cat, and so they don't want to have it desexed. So if you can convince those people to actually take on the responsibility of the cat and have it microchipped in their name, and what Cindy and the animal management team plan to do is they're actually going to pay for the microchip, and they're going to pay for the desexing and the vaccination of these 100 cats in the problem areas. So you catch those people, and then you can, if you can catch those people, you can get the cat desexed and you don't get any more kittens. And that's my goal. That's what I was put on this earth to do, desex cats.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillors, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll thank Penny and Anne for presenting, and know you've been waiting a bit of time to get in. I think, Penny, you first touched base with me a few months ago, so great that you've made it to a public forum. And look, our officers will no doubt be in touch, because a lot of benefit for council to connect with you, and if there's those funding streams from the state government as well, then that also provides plenty of opportunities. So thank you very much, Penny and Anne, and we'll be in touch.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
So our second presenter for this evening is Bruce Ivey. We'll just wait for Bruce to join us online. We got Bruce with us. You there, Bruce?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely. We can hear you and we can see you. So you've got 5 minutes to present to council, and then any questions from councillors as well.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to raise the issue. I'm not sure you're aware of where I'm talking about. It's the yellow art sculptures on that island where you get to the end of Buller Road, turn left, and the island's created by the entrance to the Calder and the entrance to the Tullamarine Freeway. And there's those yellow sculptures there. But over time, the trees have grown up and you just can't see them. So what I'm suggesting is that the trees not get pulled out, but get trimmed so that we can see them. It was a lot of money, I think, to put them in. I think we're talking 150,000. It just seems to me if you can't see them, what's the point? I have contacted Vic Roads who own the land, but they say they only have money to clear up trees that have fallen or whatever, not to do a job like that. But they said if the council or the Parks and Gardens contact them for a permit, they'll allow Moonee Valley Council to clear it up. The other thing, not only just with seeing those art sculptures, I think too it's getting to be a bit of a fire hazard there as well. So probably clear some of the undergrowth.
Thanks. Thank you, Bruce. Councillors, any questions for Bruce? Councillor Isaac?
Who did the sculpture, Bruce? Do you know anything about its history?
No, not really, but it's been there a long time. There's still a few up the Calder Freeway as well. There's a sign up that says Pride of Place, and they did have a name.
We did a little bit of research. They're actually called Field of Gold Fragments. They were by Byrne, Hocking and Weimar. It was titled Images of the West Gold Fragments, Initiative of the Western Region Forum. So there were 68. There's 68 of them, mostly around the interchanges with the Tullamarine Freeway and the Western Ring Road, some painted pink to represent the sunset, and some painted yellow, which was meant to be gold, to represent the roads to the goldfields. The actual project cost, and we had to do some real digging through our council trim system, was $640,000.
Okay.
State government funded, but each council contributed $54,000. So each of the 6 Western councils at the time in '98 contributed $54,000. Bruce, I know that our officers have come back saying that it's obviously Department of Transport land. I'm not completely across how the rules would, how they would allow council officers to maintain freeway land, but I'm sure our CEO can follow that up. CEO, are you online? Is that something you might be able to follow up with the Department of Transport to see how that permit would be obtained should council wish to proceed with that approach? CEO, you with us? No, no, we're just maybe struggling there a little bit. But Bruce, I'll get our CEO to follow that up and to see whether that permit can be obtained and how that would work. We don't want to get rid of the foliage. I actually think if the foliage could be trimmed back slightly, you actually get a nice contrast between the yellow and the green trees. So that might be an adequate approach.
Yeah, I agree. Looks good, but yeah, you just can't see the yellow sculptures. You can see the first 3, but I think there's about 9 more you can't see.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bruce. Appreciate your time.
Good on you. Thank you very much.
So for those watching online, that concludes our public forum. Our next public forum will be advertised on the council website. It should be in November, potentially the 16th, but I don't want to just randomly pick a date. We'll have to wait till after the stat meeting when those dates are locked in. But stay tuned to the council website for those November and December meeting dates. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us online.